During the cold, bitter months of the Afghan winter, the seemingly impassable expanse of the Hindu Kush provides an ideal place of refuge for the country's most elusive predator. At this time of year, snow leopards can be found at lower elevations in search of prey, but as temperatures rise with the onset of spring, the country's national animal makes a retreat to higher ground. Of the 12 countries that play host to these spectacular felines, there is perhaps no more extreme an example of this shift in temperature than Afghanistan, where land surface temperatures can rise to 50 degrees centigrade during the summer. At 35 degrees latitude, the intersection between the subtropical and temperate zones passes directly through the northern half of the country, contributing to a broad array of habitats, home to a large number of animals, including almost 400 birds, well over 100 species of mammals, and over 100 reptiles. Afghanistan and its wildlife can best be explored by traversing its 5 climate regions, which, thanks to their extreme variations in topography and precipitation, feature vast expanses of desert, woodland, forests, grassland, and rugged icy terrain, the latter of which is exemplified by a thin stretch of land in the far east of the country. The Wakhan corridor sits at the intersection of several mountain ranges, including the Hindu Kush, the Pamir Mountains, and the Karakoram Range, and contains several important high-altitude river valleys. Home to some of the country's most impressive wildlife, the entire corridor was declared a national park in 2014, and several animals are now heavily protected. In addition to snow leopards, brown bears, and the Eurasian lynx, there are several species of bovid which enjoy the alpine here, including argali and Siberian ibex, which are preyed upon by the snow leopards and bears. The smaller mammals of the mountains include the stoat, which, unlike the northern subspecies, does not display a white coat in the winter, and a flower transportation specialist known as the large-eared pika. 2 of BirdLife International's important bird areas also sit inside of the national park. Between them, big Pamir and small Pamir play host to some of the most colourful bird species, the majority of which are residents, unlike many of the migratory species found throughout much of the rest of the country. The district of Wakhan makes up just a small part of the Badakhshan province, and although the mammals and birds here are more numerous, there are several species of reptile that thrive in this region. The Siberian pit viper can be found in rocky terrain alongside the colourful Himalayan agama, which can be observed basking in the summer sun. Another defining feature of this climate region is the level of precipitation. Panjshir province acts as the epicenter of the country's rainfall, and in a land of climatic extremes, contributes to some of Afghanistan's most extensive vegetation found to the south. The Eastern Highlands contains 2 areas that are completely unique from the rest of the country, both of which are related to the region's topography. While the mountains of the east are less spectacular than those found to the north, this intermediate elevation produces the country's only conifer forests, which, in addition to being home to a selection of globally renowned trees, house some of the country's most unique animals, including the rhesus macaque, which, besides from humans, is the only primate whose range extends into Afghanistan, and many species of bird, some of whom feast on the seeds of the pine cones. Perhaps the most interesting bird in this area is the Himalayan monal. The males of the species exhibit an almost unbelievably colourful plumage, which is used to impress females during courtship. These conifer forests start in the north in the Nuristan province, and run in a strip down towards the deserts of the south. Surrounding these forests are areas of woodland, the dominant habitat of this region, which is home to its own collection of creatures, including the country's second species of bear, the Asiatic black bear. Being subject to such extreme temperatures, it's worth noting that these areas of lush foliage are sparse, with large tracts of barren land found throughout the country, including the Eastern Highlands. The fertile forests of Nuristan are separated from those further south by one such arid area, which sits at the lowest elevation in the eastern portion of the country and is also subject to the highest temperatures. Although many of the reptiles here are partial to mountainous rocky terrain, this patch of land and the Eastern Highlands in general act as the northwesternmost point of their distribution due to an understandable reluctance to venture much further into the Hindu Kush. One notable exception to this, however, is the leopard gecko, which can be found further west at higher elevations. Of the species limited to the east, one of the most interesting is the Bengal monitor lizard, which is one of only 2 monitors found in Afghanistan. If you thought the landscapes here were incredible, I have good news as we pass through the country's capital and by far the most populous city, Kabul, as we return to higher elevations to explore another of the country's ecologically diverse regions. The Central Highlands features the bulk of the Hindu Kush mountain range, and in addition to being breathtaking in the winter months, is also a sight for sore eyes in the summer. One of the area's most interesting features is a large system of caves, in which some of the country's 30+ species of bat take refuge. The lesser mouse-eared bat weighs no more than 26 grams, and can be found sleeping in clusters during the day. The greater horseshoe bat is also found here, and like its mouse-eared cousin is insectivorous, hunting larger insects such as butterflies and beetles. Outside of the caves, the alpine grasslands are patrolled by a collection of carnivores, including 2 subspecies of grey wolf, the Indian wolf being found to the southwest, and the Eurasian wolf to the northeast. Prey for the wolves consists of wild boar, which are widespread across Afghanistan, and a hardy species of wild sheep known as the urial. The world's most adorable, yet grumpiest feline is also found here, preying upon the highlands' equally adorable rodent species. Of the country's 8 national parks, there is one in particular that gives Wakhan a run for its money. Bandi Amir was established in 2009 and features a set of deep blue, high-altitude lakes that contrast sharply with the reds and greys of the surrounding mountains. The park is also categorized as one of BirdLife International's important bird areas, of which there are 4 in the Central Highlands. Perhaps even more incredibly, to the south, a brackish lake at Dasht-e Nawa contains a 10,000-strong breeding population of greater flamingos, who spend their summers in Afghanistan before migrating south for the winter. Having now covered the country's epic mountainous regions, to conclude our journey we must descend to lower elevations. The northern plains is known to be the most fertile area in Afghanistan, and is where the majority of the country's agriculture takes place, despite roughly half of the land being categorized as semi-desert. It is in these drier, less hospitable areas, however, that Afghanistan's reptiles really steal the limelight. One such species is the toad-headed agama, which is found at the lowest elevations at the very north of the country. They use a shaking motion to bury themselves in the sand, and have colourful flaps of skin on either side of their mouth, which are used as a defensive display when threatened. The snakes of the north include the dwarf sand boa, which is one of 3 sand boas found in the country, the barred wolf snake, another non-venomous species, and the Caspian cobra, which is highly venomous and regarded by some as the deadliest species of cobra. Thankfully, they feed mostly on small mammals, such as the midday gerbil, which, like the large-eared pika, will collect vegetation to store in its burrow. These rodents are also preyed upon by birds of prey such as the Seika falcon and the much larger Pallas's fish eagle, both of which are unfortunately endangered. Other mammals include the Tolai hare and the coracle, a medium-sized cat with a very large range, present throughout much of the grasslands of sub-Saharan Africa and through into Asia, where the arid regions of northwestern Afghanistan make the perfect home. Temperatures in the northern plains are some of the hottest in the nation, but there is one final location to explore that embodies its desert categorization, but is by no means devoid of wildlife. Both Helmand and Kandahar provinces have a reputation for being intensely hot, harsh environments, but these areas are not composed solely of flat, sandy desert. The mountains of the southern provinces are quite striking in their own right, and the turquoise blue waters of the aquatic ecosystems here breathe life into an otherwise desolate landscape. One such body of water, Lake Harmon, is positioned on the Iranian border and is home to the most diverse collection of migratory birds in the country, with no less than 5 species of duck amassing tens of thousands of individuals, all of whom spend their winter vacation here alongside beautiful great white egrets and a small population of resident Dalmatian pelicans. To the east, the Registan Desert is home to a different collection of birds, including multiple species of sand grouse, smaller birds such as the trumpeter finch, and the crepuscular Egyptian nightjar, which spends the day camouflaged in the sand. The wide array of desert invertebrates includes species of praying mantis and the camel spider, which although it looks scary, is harmless compared to the desert snakes. The saw-scaled viper is one of several intimidating viper species, but lacks the devil-like protrusions of the Persian horned viper. Some of the less scary-looking reptiles include the Persian wonder gecko and the Shokari sand racer, which is venomous but not a risk to humans. The mammals of this region are a tough bunch and include the chinkara and the goitered gazelle, who have a life expectancy of around 6 years and once passed are scavenged by the striped hyena, which is found throughout the southern half of the country. Other carnivores include the golden jackal, which is also widespread, along with several smaller species of fox, including Blanford's fox and the similarly sized Ruppel's fox, which has protective pads of fur on its feet and large ears to dissipate heat. Ear size is a particularly interesting trait in foxes and differs greatly between the 22 species, all of which you can learn about in this video. Thank you so much for watching.